What's up, guys? Welcome back to review and discussion for UnOrdinary episode 291. Lot to talk about with this episode, honestly. Well, not a whole lot, there's a bit to unpack here. We'll just talk about that. And it's honestly a really good episode. And for just a talking episode, this is honestly one of the best episodes in the series. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the discussion. So, tail ends of last episode, John clearly looks at Sarah like, "Did you just say Jane?" And he even asks her what the Jane she saw looked like. And Sarah definitely describes his mom. White hair and brown eyes, but let's be real, John and Jane's eyes are golden, like a dull gold. Unimportant, but John thinks on it if it could actually be her, and we see a young John looking at more pictures of her, and one of her probably in a school uniform. And honestly, like I said in my reaction, this scene, for how sad the context of it actually is, this scene was really cute. There is something just kind of like of a kid looking at pictures of their parents when they were younger. Just kind of something that's really nice to me. But Sarah even asks what happened and what happened to her. And John mentions that she left when he was very young, and he always thought him and William weren't good enough for her. Now, this kind of does confirm that, John is aware of his mom's existence, or rather, John is aware that, she was a part of his life and at some point. And, I brought it up before, there's a possibility that he thinks she died, or William told her she died. But no, this does confirm, like, John's like, oh yeah, my mom left us when we were young. So yeah, and honestly, it's, considering how society has treated him for so long, that's a pretty fair assumption to make on John's part. And for someone in John's position, it's really sad to see that this is how he feels, that this is kind of, now, like I said before, this is not something that's affected John too much in his life. Like I said, it's never been brought up before, so it doesn't seem like this is a big deal to John, but it is really sad that this is kind of something that he's carried with him for, almost his whole life, that he just thought, well, my mom, we weren't good enough for my mom, so that's that. That's really sad and tragic to hear, but I definitely think it's possible we will see a change in that as this storyline progresses. John, however, then does brush off this whole thing, saying that it's most likely just a coincidence, though I think it's definitely possible this is going to begin to start eating at him now more and more, and he will want to now look for her and find her as the story progresses further. So, yeah. Uru, like I said, I think you're going to handle this part of the story very well. I think now you can show, like, John, like, I need to find my mom. I need to make sure she's safe. Now is a good time to, like, have that be a part of John's character. Don't make it, I've always wanted to look for my mom. Just my opinion. So, we then cut to William. And I did say, now that Jane's getting involved, William has to be brought back into the story at some point. And I'm so glad he's being brought back now of all times. So, William arrives at a very nice house. Probably even nicer than Sarah's house, to be honest. So, we don't know the location. We don't know where this is exactly. We don't have a city or anything. We just know that he arrives by taxi to a house. He meets with a maid at the door and she lets him in. And this motherfucker is living. Very nice house. He's got pools. He's got nice tables. He's got champagne glasses. He's living large, my man. And then, I should have stuck with this. I should not have changed it at the last second. Uncle Doe. No, I know he can't be Uncle Doe because Doe is William's last name. But, sticking with Uncle Doe for now, arrives on the scene. And Cameron reveals himself. Jane's older brother. We don't know age yet. We don't know age. But Jane's brother, John's uncle, reveals himself. Now, he clearly wants nothing to do with William, and he tells the maid to escort him out. But William says that he has news about Jane, though Cameron doesn't care, saying that Jane cut ties with him well before John was born, because even Cameron mentions that he doesn't, or Cameron realizes, it's revealed that Cameron doesn't know that John exists. He kind of is repulsed by the idea that Jane had a child with a weakling like William. So, yeah. Um, there's that. But William also tells Cameron about what Simon reported to him and that she's been trapped, but Cameron brushes it off as a scam. And the maid begins to escort William out, but he leaves the documents behind. And when Cameron tells her to get rid of them, she sees them and she has a bit of a reaction. It's kind of the two exclamation points. We don't see her face, we just see that she sees them, and her text reaction is kind of like, oh, fuck. So, I definitely think that she is going to try and sneak some way to him or get him to see them somehow. So, yeah. Uncle Doe is definitely going to be heading to Wellston, and once again, Claire's prophecy is going to come true. Now, this could also be, we're going to, put Claire back into the story as well. Claire and Adrian, definitely possible. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Real quick side note about Uncle Doe. I think this motherfucker has a lot more money than Sarah's family. Especially because Sarah's parents both work. And Narissa still puts an effort in her appearance. Cameron just relaxes in a bathrobe in his house. He's got hangover look in this appearance. And the maid also mentions you've been busy with your work. And so I think Cameron or Narissa and Sarah's dad are definitely hard workers. Cameron just I'm fucking rich. I don't give a shit. So yeah. And once again, I also mentioned in the reaction how another kind of parallel we can draw between John and Sarah. They both are connected somehow to a very wealthy family. I do think, John's maternal side, I think they are very well off and established. Now, granted, I think it's possible we probably won't meet John's other family ever again. It may just be Cameron. Honestly, wouldn't be against that. Because let's be real. When Cameron meets John, I think it's definitely going to be a hard relationship that they have. Especially right now since John is kind of crippled or in a weakened state. But we'll touch on that again in a bit. So outside of Cameron's house, William reflects on his meeting with Simon, stating that they, whoever caught her, which we can assume to be the authorities, Ember, Next Gen, just they're keeping her there because she is at a Next Gen facility, would need an army just to catch her. Much like Keen referenced when he was discussing Ray's death with Vaughn back in episode 41, that each high tier is like a one-man army. So, and then he considers her being kept there for years without escaping. And then we get a flashback, baby, with a younger William and little baby John, as he looks at Jane, who's sweating a very slight bit and clearly nervous. And she asks if he's noticed anyone following them lately. And clearly he hasn't. But I think she has noticed because she may have the same passive ability as John, aura sensing. So I think it's definitely possible that, John is a lot like his mom in multiple ways. So, yeah. William then still reflects on things for a little bit as he then tries to call Simon, knowing he can't report anything to the authorities. But Simon is dead. And his body is in a dumpster. His clothes are clearly burned and slashed, most likely by Ember. He is big dead. Now, one last thing I want to port on before we get back to the John and Cameron type thing. So, one thing I want to talk about, did Jane leave before her and William knew John would not have ability during childhood? Now, I believe Uru mentioned before that, abilities tend to develop early in childhood, but John was a baby in that flashback. And also, there is also the thought, and then we also got the shot of John as a child, kind of like, I would say around the 4 range, looking at those pictures. So, yeah, did she leave during... Clearly, she wasn't around during the whole New Boston thing. There's no way that she would know John would get so strong. But did she leave before then? Or did she know that John would awaken her ability at some point? And she left to protect him and William, because clearly in that flashback she knows that something was up, that something was up, and that, you know, she was like, oh my gosh, like I need to do something. And William even mentions her, like, are they like threatening her? Like, did she leave? Did she do this to protect us? So, yeah. There's also the possibility that she knew John, like I said, she knew John would awaken, or maybe once she thought, okay, my son doesn't have an ability, but I do. I need to leave. Like, I need to protect them. So, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? And then let's talk about John and Cameron. So, as I mentioned in the reaction, I definitely think it's possible that Cameron is going to go to Wellston at some point. Whether he is going to end up being the new headmaster, we're going to have to wait and see, honestly. Who knows? Like, Vaughn may be a friend of Cameron's, and that's also maybe why John got into Wellston, because he has a family connection. And, you know, Vaughn could have been like, wait, aura manipulation, he can do this with his ability. I've seen that before. That's my man Cameron's ability. Who knows? Well, probably not, since, you know, at some point Vaughn probably would have been like, hey, Cameron, I know your nephew. He goes to my school. Anyway, so there's that. And also, John is a bit like Cameron in the sense that he's kind of temperamental, and I think we can clearly see where John's angry side comes from in his family. So, yeah. Anyway, I think once Cameron meets John, I definitely think John was able to sense that someone's aura was messed with, or that, you know, things weren't as they seemed with another person's ability and aura. So I think it's definitely possible Cameron may notice that and be like, hey, the fuck's going on with your aura? You should be a lot stronger. And John's probably going to be like, I am a lot stronger. The authorities fucked up my ability, bro. What do you want me to do? I don't even know you, uncle. Get the fuck out of my face. So, yeah. I'm excited to see how this goes. I don't think Cameron's going to be a great uncle to John. He could be, though. Cameron definitely gives the vibes of a piece of shit character, but once he meets John and, like, finds out, like, how strong John is, he may be more willing to help out and be like, hey, let's train up your ability then so we can save my sister and your mom. Or I think the more likely choice is that their meeting goes extremely poorly. Cameron can't necessarily sense what's up with John's aura and just like, oh, yeah, your mom just left you because you're weak. Fuck you. I'm out. But yeah. We're going to have to wait and see. But without a doubt, this episode right here is definitely a level 10 episode. Like I said, it's just a talking episode, but so much happens in this episode and there's so much revealed information. It's great. Level 10 without a doubt. So, that's my thoughts on episode 291. 9 more episodes until episode 300, and I'm excited to see what Uru cooks up next. But that's going to be it for today, guys. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy.